Hi students, I am Baji from Meslower Dizzy Classroom. And in last session, we discussed about various types of land adaptations and how the animals and plants adapt themselves in deserts and polar regions and tundras. And now we have to understand about a peculiar mechanism in various types of animals and plants in various locations of the ecosystems, in which one of the peculiar adaptation when conditions become very harsh or conditions become very dangerous, and whenever a shortage of food happens, and one of the dramatic way of survival of an organism is that simply close down or simply silent or simply shut down. This is the mechanism of hibernation. Hibernation is a peculiar adaptation in various types of animals, especially you observed in polar bears or bats or earthworms, and they are undergoing this hibernation process. That means hibernation is nothing but inactivity of metabolic activities or metabolic activity depression. That means it shut down almost all the metabolic activities. It slow down the rate of heartbeat or circulatory system. It slow down the respiratory system. It slows down the excretory system, and almost all the body metabolic activities are under closed conditions. And in this way, the organism adapts itself to slow down the consumption of energy within the body for a whole season. It may be a winter season or it may be a summer season. If an organism adapting itself for a winter sleep, we call it as hibernation, or if an organism sleep entirely in summer season, we call it as estivation. In hibernation or estivation, they both are shut down their metabolic activities. When compared to hibernation, the organism are take rest at warm places and in closed conditions, or whereas in estivation, the organism take rest in shady climate or cool condition or deep inside the land. The organisms which are undergoing hibernation are bears, bats, certain snakes and hedgehogs are undergoing this hibernation. And whereas if you see in estivation, the animals like certain North American desert tortoises, crocodiles, African lungfish, Malagasy fat-tailed dwarf lemur, frogs, salamanders, snails, bees and earthworms, etc., almost all these organisms are undergoing summer sleep, that is estivation. And this hibernation is one of the mechanism of an adaptation that organism can sustain within the extreme shortage of food or extreme dry or hot conditions. They will adapt in this manner. This is one of the amazing adaptation. In the same manner, if you observe the peculiar adaptation in colonies of algae and fungi, both are undergoing a mutualistic understanding and they combine together, form into a new species, that is lichens. And these lichens adapt in such a way that for a long survival, they combine together to form a relationship, that is symbiotic relationship, in which algae prepares its own food material from the atmosphere. Fungi secretes certain chemicals which can protect from other organisms, and this is one of the a peculiar combination of organisms to survive on this planet. And these lichens found on the barks of the trees as well as on the surfaces of the rocks, or it may also present in desert or extreme or xeric conditions. If you observe during biryani making, certain people are using the pattar pool, which are also called as a lichen. This pattar pool also used in making of biryani, and this is one of the lichen. If you observe in grasslands or savannas, the grasslands are open flatland areas, low growing plants like grasses and certain flowers. But in those regions, there is not enough rain to support the growth of trees in grasslands. Even scattered trees are present in grasslands and savannas. The grasslands are very hot and dry climatic zones, and they have distinct monsoons. In grasslands and savannas, the organisms are enough space to cover itself. Many grasses and flowers are grown in grasslands as well as savannas, and also large herbivores are we found in grasslands. Often huge herds of grazing animals traveling to the grasslands seeking safety or protection from other organisms which hunt them or which grab them. There are not many places to hide large animals on grasslands, but there is plenty of space to hide small animals like lizards, rats, reptiles, and certain snakes and rabbits. This is one of the adaptation by animals and plants in grasslands because nutrient availability is very low and conditions are very dry and they change according to the seasons, and animals are migrating from one place to another place during extreme conditions. This is one of the adaptations in grassland. Whereas if you see in mountains and hills, it is very quite different from compared to grasslands, because with increasing height the temperature decreases and colder it gets in altitudes. The different types of plants grows at different levels of mountains. All mountains have tree line. Beyond the tree line the plant cannot grow, and that is a tree line. If you observe in mountains, large mountains, at higher level we find coniferous forest or trees like alpines and subalpines firs we may found in higher altitudes of the mountains. Whereas in middle zone different types of plants, herbs, shrubs and flowers we may find. But at the lower level we may find trees, where the trees sheds their leaves according to the seasons and before they are undergoing adaptation for extreme conditions, and they stop activity of photosynthesis and they preserve food material for during harsh winters. And to preserve their energy, the animals are very different. The animals like squirrels, rats and sheep, yak or certain snakes and birds, they adapt to seasons and certain migrate to safe zones during harsh conditions on mountains, and this is one of the adaptation found in mountains. The rich environment we may see in forest. Forest is one of the rich environment of natural ecosystems. All the conditions depends on the temperature. Different types of forests are distributed throughout the world. Forests are tropical forest, temperate forest and coniferous forest. In tropical forest, even tropical evergreen forest are there, tropical deciduous forest. Whereas in temperate forest, temperate evergreen forest as well as temperate deciduous forest we may find. And also in coniferous and Mediterranean region, the vegetation is also very rich, which is near to equator. For example, if you see at colder altitudes, the forest is dominated by evergreen forest. They are called as coniferous. These conifers are found in cold regions of all the parts of the world, and they especially have trees like alpines and subalpine firs. The coniferous forest which present at higher altitudes have different types of adaptations. The leaves are spike like structures. Tree shape is very cone like shape structure because it slide down the entire ice fallen on it. It is one of the peculiar adaptations by plants in such a dry or ice condition. The leaves prevents frosting, and also the seeds have a hard shell which prevent the dry ice winds. The plants which are present in higher altitudes have lot of problems, especially with sunlight, because with lower light only they have to adapt themselves. So that's why they grown in such a height to catch the light for photosynthesis. In the same manner, different types of animals, especially we may see the tigers, foxes, or bears, or different types of lizards and certain snakes we may find in these type of environments. If you see in forest areas, forest consisting of lot of rich environment, and it has lot of nutrients, and in which almost all the organisms make forest as their home. Forest grows where there is no too hot or too cold. Hence, it has a lot of nutrients availability and rich environment and rich climate zone. Hence, the organisms, maximum number of plants and maximum number of animals make forest as their home. Different types of animals like moose, deers, bears, wolves, foxes, rabbits and squirrels, as well as many kinds of birds and reptiles make their home in forest. And even the higher hunters like lions, tigers, cheetahs, the giant animals like elephants and giraffes are also present in forest. Almost all the organisms adopting themselves for food, shelter, reproduction and prevention of competition among themselves to sustain in a rich environment. In hotter climate, we find tropical rainforest. These areas are having lot of rainfall, humid and warm areas, and which supports almost all the 80% of land animals, especially in this rich environment, that is evergreen tropical forest. And these forests have greatest biodiversity, that is plants and animals with rich environment present in this tropical evergreen forest. Trees in this forest grows up to 30 meters or 100 feet in height from the highest canopy of the forest to the ground floor of the forest. It has rich biodiversity or rich life. Some animals never touch the forest floor or ground in their entire life. They will live in the canopy of the forest. Small animals like monkeys, birds, frogs, lizards, snakes, sloths, anteaters, jaguars and thousands of insects live together. The rainforest is the important producer of oxygen on this planet, and it is home for almost all the biodiversity on this planet. Many new medicines are found in these forests. These are large and dense and thick. You know, the canopy is very thick in this forest. Even today, that there are believed to be many unknown plants and animal species have to be discovered in these forests. If you see in certain forests, the seasonal changes may take place, that is shedding of leaves. In deciduous forest, almost all the trees sheds their leaf before the summer or in the winter season, and they regrow in next spring season. We find all the monsoons like spring, summer, fall and winter. Almost all these monsoons we may found in this forest, hence we called as monsoon forest. In this forest, generally we find almost all the types of plants, animals, birds and different types of insects, and almost all the important valuable resources we may get from these forests only. You know, the trees like deodar, peepal, mangoes, neem, even the teak, sandalwood, rosewood, these are valuable wood resources may found in this forest only. And the animals, general animals we may see in forest, that is lions, tigers, elephants, giraffes, deers, bears and monkeys and different types of snakes, birds and insects, many more such species we may found in this deciduous, evergreen or temperate or different types of forest areas, and they adopt according to their conditions, according to their food requirements, according to their protection, survival, reproduction, interaction. Almost all these elements are making an organism to adapt according to itself. Such an adaptation we may found in forest areas. In the same manner, in coastal areas, whenever if you visited different types of places in our Andhra Pradesh, or beaches in Goa or Tamil Nadu or Orissa or even in West Bengal, we may found a peculiar adaptation in plant population present at the coast, that is mangroves. But how they adapt in the saline water or salt water, it is one of the peculiar and amazing adaptation by a plant in very salty conditions. Generally, the plants cannot survive in salty water and they may die because the lack of respiration for root and also minerals from the soil, and this may cause lot of damage and the plant cannot survive. But it is one of the peculiar adaptation by mangroves. These plants find such a way by developing aerial roots which protrudes up to 12 inches out of the soil or sediments. These aerial roots are called as knees, and they respire through those knees or those roots to sustain on salty areas. The knees would support and aid the growth of the plant in maintaining adequate root respiration in a watery environment. They live above and below the water. These mangrove forests are very important where most delicate creatures find their safety under the roots of this mangrove forest. These are the mangrove forests which protect us from hurricanes and tsunamis much better than the anything made by man. 3/4 of all the tropical fishes are born there. Coral reefs depends on them to filter the sediments. Countless reptiles or birds live here. It is the most important ecosystem on land. Not only in mangroves, but different types of ecosystems on this land, especially from desert to mangroves. Almost all the organisms like plants, animals, even microbes, they adapt themselves to overcome all the extreme conditions, and life is not easy on this planet for every organism like humans. We have almost all the facilities, but organisms like plants and animals does not have such a conditions. They will overcome from these extreme conditions to sustain for themselves. This planet is world of many beautiful places, from mountains to valleys, or from desert to forest, or from grasslands to caves, or from the polar regions to tundras, or from water to water. Earth is also a home for many wonderful faces. All of us here on earth lives in different environment with different conditions. These different conditions may vary from land to land or water to water. We call it as ecosystem. They differ in climate and in elevations and in conditions, all many habitats and habits that life calls the home. We understand the variations of conditions from land to land. In next session, the variation in from water to water, how the organism adapting in the water, that is from fresh water or from the marine water or from the sea, the surface of the sea to the depth of the ocean in different zones, how the life is distributed, we will find in next episode, in which we will discuss the greatest home of our planet that covers almost all 80% of organisms on this planet. That's the adaptation, that is aquatic adaptation. in next episode. Okay students, bye bye.